The blade at Captain James Hawker's throat was sharp enough to split a hair, held by a man who'd killed 17 people in the last month alone. "You've lost your mind," growled Benjamin "Black Ben" Cortez, his scarred face inches from Hawker's. Around the smoke-filled room, 3 other pirate captains watched with hands on their pistols, waiting to see if this meeting would end in blood. Hawker didn't blink. He pushed a stolen Spanish document across the table, the parchment still stained with the previous owner's blood. "Read it." Black Ben's eyes scanned the page. His grip on the knife loosened. This can't be real." "It's real," Hawker said quietly. "The Isabella. Spanish treasure ship carrying the combined wealth of 3 colonial governors. 28 million pieces of 8. And it's stopping at San Pedro Harbor for repairs, alone, without its escort fleet. 28 million. The number seemed to suck the air from the room. "When?" asked Maria, the Blade, Santos, the deadly female captain whose crew had never lost a boarding action. 6 days. But here's the catch, it's only in harbor for 12 hours. Daylight hours. And San Pedro has a fortress with 200 soldiers." The room erupted. "Attack in daylight? That's suicide. Pirates never work together, we'd kill each other before we killed the Spanish. This breaks every rule of the code." Hawker's smile was cold and final. "Every single rule. That's exactly why they'll never see it coming. We'll do the impossible, split the biggest prize in Caribbean history, and either become legends or die trying." He looked at each captain. "I'm sailing in 6 days. Who's with me?" 5 weeks earlier, James Hawker had been minutes from execution. Spanish soldiers had captured him after a botched raid near Cartagena. They'd dragged him to the town square, built the gallows, and fitted the noose around his neck while crowds gathered to watch a pirate hang. Then the earthquake hit. The ground shook like an angry god. Buildings collapsed. The gallows cracked and fell, dumping Hawker into a pile of timber. In the chaos, with soldiers running for their lives and civilians screaming, he'd stolen a horse and escaped into the jungle. That's where he'd met the dying Spanish officer. Lieutenant Marco Vasquez lay crushed beneath a fallen tree, blood pooling around him. He had maybe minutes left. Hawker had intended to just take the man's weapons and leave, but Vasquez grabbed his arm with surprising strength. "I'm dead anyway," the Spaniard gasped. "But I can give you something. Revenge against those who left me here to die alone." Vasquez had been carrying dispatch papers, orders he was supposed to deliver to the governor of San Pedro. The papers detailed a secret: the treasure ship Isabella would stop at San Pedro for emergency repairs after a storm damaged her rudder. She'd arrive alone because her escort fleet was delayed. The stop was supposed to be confidential, known only to top Spanish officials. "My captain abandoned me when the earthquake started," Vasquez wheezed. "Left me to die. So I'm giving you this. Use it. Make them pay." The man died with hate in his eyes, and Hawker took the papers and a plan began forming in his mind. The Isabella was legendary. She carried tribute from 3 separate colonies, only sailed once per year, and was always surrounded by warships. Taking her was impossible under normal circumstances. But alone, damaged, stopped in harbor for repairs? That changed everything. Hawker spent 3 weeks preparing. He stole more documents, bribed dock workers, paid Spanish deserters for information about San Pedro's defenses. He learned everything: guard rotations, cannon positions, the fortress commander's habits, tidal patterns. But he also learned something else: one ship couldn't do this. The fortress was too strong. He'd need multiple crews, coordinated attacks, overwhelming force. That meant breaking the most sacred rule of piracy: trust no one. So Hawker sent coded messages to 4 pirate captains he'd sailed with before, rivals, competitors, men he'd fought against and barely trusted. The message was simple: one meeting. One chance. The biggest score of your life. Now they sat in this Nassau tavern, staring at him like he'd suggested sailing into hell itself. Black Ben spoke first. Even if this is real, why should we work together? Pirates compete. That's how we survive. The moment we get our hands on that treasure, someone will betray someone else. Then we set terms before we start, Hawker said. He pulled out a pre-written agreement. Every ship gets an equal share, 7 million each. We divide it at sea, immediately after we take the Isabella, before we even leave San Pedro waters. Any captain who tries to double-cross the others gets hunted by the other 3. We blood oath it. Blood oath? Maria laughed harshly. Pirates don't honor those. These pirates do, Hawker said coldly. Because this is once in a lifetime. After this, we never work together again. We take our shares, disappear, and live like kings. But only if we trust each other for one day. He drew his knife and cut his palm. Who's in? One by one, they cut their palms and clasped hands. The impossible alliance was born. June 3, 1721. 4 days before the heist. 4 pirate ships gathered in a hidden cove 30 miles from San Pedro, Hawker's Revenge, Black Ben's Dark Prophet, Maria's Serpent's Kiss, and the Havoc, captained by scarred giant named Thomas Iron Tom Wade. 300 pirates total. 300 men who'd spent their lives stealing from each other, fighting over prizes, and following one rule: trust nobody. Now Hawker was asking them to function like a naval squadron. The captains gathered aboard the Revenge, spreading maps across Hawker's table. He'd marked every detail: fortress walls, cannon emplacements, dock positions, patrol routes. We hit them at noon, Hawker explained. The Isabella will be docked here, on the main pier, undergoing repairs. The Spanish think they're safe because no pirate would attack in daylight. We'll prove them wrong. How do we get past the fortress cannons? Iron Tom asked, his voice like grinding stone. Hawker pointed to the map. San Pedro's cannons are positioned for long-range defense. They can devastate ships approaching from the open sea. But if we come from the south, hugging the coastline, we'll be in their blind spot until we're almost at the harbor mouth. By the time they traverse the guns, we'll be inside. And once we're inside? Maria pressed. 2-part attack. Black Ben and Iron Tom, your ships engage the fortress, keep their attention. Draw their fire. Maria and I take the Isabella. We board her, kill any resistance, cut her anchor lines, and sail her straight out while you 2 provide covering fire. So Ben and I play bait while you take the prize? Iron Tom's eyes narrowed dangerously. This was the critical moment. The point where mistrust could shatter everything. You play the harder role, Hawker said honestly. You'll take fire from fortress cannons. You might lose men, ships, your lives. That's why you get first pick of the treasure division. Your crews choose their shares before mine and Maria's do. The room went silent. It was unprecedented, giving rivals priority. Black Ben studied Hawker's face. You're serious. I'm serious. This only works if we're honest about the risks. You and Tom face the fortress guns. That deserves compensation. Iron Tom's massive fist slammed the table, but not in anger, in acceptance. Done. But if you try to sail off without us, I'll hunt you to the ends of the earth. Fair enough, Hawker agreed. They spent the next 3 days drilling. The crews practiced coordination, signaling systems using flags, synchronized maneuvers, supporting fire patterns. It was awkward at first. Pirates and used to cooperation crashed into each other, misread signals, nearly started fights over minor insults. But slowly, impossibly, they began functioning as a unit. On the morning of the 6th day, Hawker gathered all 300 pirates on the beach. Men from 4 different crews, 4 different flags, 4 different loyalties. Tomorrow we do something no pirates have ever done, he told them. We work together. We trust each other. We break every rule we've ever followed. The Spanish think we're predictable, that we'll raid fishing boats and steal cargo in darkness. Tomorrow we show them what we really are. He drew his cutlass. Tomorrow we're not pirates. We're an army. And we're taking their flagship in broad daylight. The crews roared approval, weapons raised. That night, Hawker barely slept. He kept reviewing the plan, finding flaws, questioning decisions. 28 million pieces of 8 hung in the balance. So did 300 lives. At dawn, the ships raised anchor and sailed toward San Pedro. Toward glory or death. June 7, 11:30 a.m. 4 pirate ships rounded the southern headland and the fortress of San Pedro came into view, gray stone walls rising from the harbor, Spanish flags snapping in the wind, 30 cannons visible along the battlements. And there, docked at the main pier like a gift from heaven, sat the Isabella. She was even more magnificent than Hawker had imagined. 3 tall masts, gilded hull decorations, the Spanish coat of arms painted on her stern. A floating palace that carried the wealth of empires. They still haven't spotted us, Black Ben called from the Dark Prophet, sailing parallel to Hawker's ship. Your blind spot theory better be right. Hawker watched through his spyglass. Spanish soldiers moved casually along the fortress walls. Workers swarmed over the Isabella, repairing her damaged rudder. No alarm bells. No signs of awareness. They had maybe 3 minutes before someone looked south and saw 4 approaching ships. Signal the attack, Hawker ordered. Red flags rose on all 4 ships. The pirates had been lounging on decks, hiding their numbers. Now they exploded into action. 300 men rushed to battle stations. Gun ports opened. Cannons were run out. Weapons were drawn. The transformation took 45 seconds. Then someone in the fortress screamed, "Piratas!" Chaos erupted. Spanish soldiers scrambled to their stations. Officers screamed orders. The fortress alarm bell began clanging frantically. But the pirates were already inside the harbor's outer perimeter, moving fast, coordinated like a naval squadron. Black Ben's Dark Prophet and Iron Tom's Havoc split left, sailing directly toward the fortress. Their cannons opened fire, sending iron balls smashing into stone walls. The shots were calculated, loud, dramatic, attention-grabbing. The fortress responded. 30 cannons began firing, their massive booms shaking the harbor. Water erupted in huge geysers as cannonballs splashed down. One hit the Dark Prophet's foremast, splintering wood. Another punched through the Havoc's hull. But they'd accomplished their goal, every Spanish eye was now on those 2 ships. Meanwhile, Hawker's Revenge and Maria's Serpent's Kiss raced toward the Isabella. The treasure ship's skeleton crew, maybe 40 sailors, saw them coming and panicked. Some tried to load cannons. Others grabbed muskets. Most just ran. Boarding positions. Hawker roared. The Revenge slammed alongside the Isabella with crushing force. Grappling hooks flew. Boarding planks crashed down. And Hawker's crew attacked like wolves. He led the charge himself, pistols firing, cutlass swinging. A Spanish sailor rushed him with a pike, Hawker shot him point blank. Another came from the side, Hawker's blade opened his throat. Behind him, his crew poured onto the Isabella's deck. Samuel, his first mate, fought with twin pistols, dropping enemies with methodical precision. A massive pirate called George wielded a boarding axe like a scythe, clearing space with brutal efficiency. On the ship's port side, Maria's crew boarded simultaneously. Maria herself was a blur of deadly motion, her twin sabers cutting through Spanish resistance like they were made of paper. The deck became a slaughterhouse. Spanish sailors fought desperately, but they were outnumbered 3-1 and caught completely by surprise. Within 4 minutes, the Isabella's deck was secured, littered with bodies and running with blood. "Cut the anchor lines," Hawker commanded. "Get those sails up now." His crew moved with practiced efficiency. Axes bit through thick anchor ropes. Pirates swarmed up the rigging, releasing sails. But the fortress hadn't forgotten them. Several cannons swiveled, targeting the Isabella. "Incoming," someone screamed. The fortress guns fired. Cannonballs screamed through the air. One hit the Isabella's stern, punching through ornate woodwork. Another took down rigging. A third missed by inches. The Isabella shuddered, and began to move. The battle disintegrated into absolute chaos. Black Ben's Dark Prophet was taking devastating fire. The fortress cannons had found their range, and every shot was tearing through his ship. His mainmast was cracked, his deck on fire, bodies scattered everywhere. But Ben fought like a demon. His remaining cannons kept firing, keeping Spanish attention focused on him while Hawker escaped with the prize. Iron Tom's havoc wasn't much better. A cannonball had punched completely through her hull below the waterline. She was taking on water fast, listing to port, going down. Tom himself stood on his tilting quarterdeck, still firing, still fighting, refusing to surrender even as his ship died beneath him. "Ben! Tom! Break off!" Hawker screamed across the harbor. "Get out now!" But breaking off wasn't simple. Both ships were too damaged to outrun fortress guns. That's when Maria did something insane. Her serpent's kiss, which had just finished helping secure the Isabella, suddenly turned and sailed straight at the fortress. At point-blank range, close enough to see the faces of Spanish gunners, she opened fire with every cannon she had. The broadside was devastating. Cannonballs ripped into the fortress walls, shattered gun emplacements, killed crews serving the cannons. The Spanish fire suddenly became scattered, disorganized. "Go!" Maria screamed at Ben and Tom. "I'll cover you." Black Ben didn't hesitate. The Dark Prophet, burning and broken, limped toward the harbor mouth. Iron Tom abandoned his sinking havoc, his crew diving into the water, swimming desperately toward Ben's ship. The fortress guns tried to target them, but Maria's suicidal attack had disrupted everything. Spanish soldiers were scrambling for cover, officers were screaming contradictory orders, and the coordinated defense had collapsed into panic. The Isabella, with Hawker at her helm, reached open water. Her sails caught the full wind and she surged forward, fast and powerful. But Hawker couldn't leave Maria behind. "Turn us about," he ordered. "We're going back." "Captain, she told us to run." Samuel protested. "And I'm telling you to turn this ship around." The Isabella came about, her massive hull turning with surprising grace. Hawker aimed her directly at the harbor mouth where Maria's serpent's kiss was now taking concentrated fire. "Load every cannon we have," Hawker commanded. "Give me a full broadside." The Spanish had no idea the Isabella was armed and crewed. They thought she was captured, helpless, running away. They were wrong. The Isabella's 32 gun ports opened simultaneously. 32 cannons, Spanish military-grade weapons, ran out. And at Hawker's command, they fired as one. The broadside was apocalyptic. 32 cannonballs hit the fortress simultaneously, pulverizing stone walls, destroying gun positions, collapsing an entire section of battlements. The explosion echoed for miles. In the sudden silence that followed, Maria's serpent's kiss raced through the harbor mouth and into open water, her crew cheering wildly. Behind her came Black Ben's limping Dark Prophet, decks crowded with his own crew plus Iron Tom's rescued sailors. All three ships, the Isabella, Serpent's Kiss, and Dark Prophet, caught the wind together and sailed away from San Pedro as the fortress burned behind them. They'd lost the havoc. They'd lost 43 men. They'd taken horrible damage. But they'd done the impossible. They'd stolen the Isabella in broad daylight, from a fortified harbor, against 200 Spanish soldiers. As San Pedro disappeared behind them, Hawker stood on the Isabella's quarterdeck and allowed himself one moment of pure, exhausted triumph. Then he turned to the business of dividing 28 million pieces of 8 before his alliance fell apart. 2 days later, the 3 ships anchored in a deserted cove while the captains divided history's greatest heist. The Isabella's cargo holds were exactly as promised: iron-bound chests filled with Spanish silver coins, gold bars stamped with royal seals, bags of emeralds and pearls from Colombia, worked silver from Mexican mines. 28 million pieces of 8. Plus treasures beyond counting. They divided it on the beach, in full view of all 3 crews, using scales to ensure fairness. As promised, Black Ben and Iron Tom's crews chose first, compensation for facing the fortress guns. The division took 6 hours. Every man received more wealth than he could spend in 3 lifetimes. But the mood wasn't celebratory. Iron Tom's havoc lay at the bottom of San Pedro Harbor. 43 pirates were dead, good men who'd trusted Hawker's plan and paid with their lives. Tom himself sat on a rock, staring at his share, 7 million pieces of 8, with empty eyes. "My ship is gone," he said quietly. 32 of my crew are dead. I'm rich beyond imagining, but I've got nothing. Hawker sat beside him. You've got something more valuable than that ship. You've got a story. When people ask how you lost your vessel, you'll tell them you sacrificed her to pull off the greatest pirate heist in history. That's worth more than any ship. Is it? Tom looked at him. 43 men dead, Hawker. 43. Was this treasure worth their lives? It was the question Hawker had been avoiding. The one that kept him awake at night. I don't know, he admitted. I told myself it was. I convinced you all it was. But now, looking at what we paid. He trailed off. Maria joined them, her arm bandaged from a musket wound. The men who died knew the risks. Every pirate knows death is coming, we just choose how we meet it. They met it doing something legendary. That counts for something. Does it? Black Ben added, approaching with a bottle of rum. Or are we just telling ourselves that to feel better about surviving while they didn't? The 4 captains sat in silence, passing the bottle, each wrestling with the same question: what was the price of becoming legends? Finally, Hawker spoke. We broke every rule today. Worked together. Attacked in daylight. Trusted each other with our lives and the biggest prize in the Caribbean. And it worked, but it nearly killed us. Maybe that's the answer. Maybe the rules exist because breaking them costs too much. So we did this for nothing? Maria asked. No, Hawker said. We proved something. We showed the Spanish Empire that pirates aren't just scattered thieves. When we work together, we're an army that can challenge their power. We humiliated them, took their flagship, and escaped alive. That matters. Black Ben raised the bottle. To the 43 who didn't make it. May they drink rum in whatever hell awaits pirates. They drank to that. Over the next week, the alliance dissolved. Each captain took their share and sailed in different directions. Ben headed for Madagascar. Maria bought a pardon and retired to a plantation in Jamaica. Tom purchased a new ship and disappeared into the Pacific. Hawker himself sailed to Charleston, adopted a false name, and became a merchant, boring, respectable, invisible. But he never forgot that day. The day they broke every rule and pulled off the impossible. The day 43 men died so pirates could become legends. And sometimes, late at night, he wondered, was it worth it? He still didn't have an answer. 15 years after the San Pedro raid, a young pirate intercepted an old man on a Charleston dock. Are you him? the youngster asked excitedly. Are you Captain James Hawker? The man who stole the Isabella? The old man, gray-haired now, weathered by years, studied the boy. That name died a long time ago. I'm just a merchant. But the stories, they say you led 4 pirate crews against a Spanish fortress in daylight. That you worked together and pulled off the impossible. I want to do something like that. I want to unite the pirate crews and, stop, the old man interrupted. You want to know the truth about that day? 43 men died. Good men. Men with families, dreams, futures. They died because I convinced them an impossible heist was worth their lives. The boy's enthusiasm faltered. But, you won. You became a legend. I became a cautionary tale. The old man's eyes were hard. Yes, we broke every rule. Yes, we pulled it off. Yes, the songs make it sound glorious. But those songs don't mention the screams. The blood. The 43 men who drowned or burned or bled out on those decks. He leaned close. Pirates have rules for a reason, boy. Don't attack in daylight, because it's suicide. Don't trust other crews, because betrayal is cheaper than loyalty. Don't chase impossible prizes, because the cost is always higher than the reward. But you succeeded, and I've lived 15 years wondering if it was worth it, the old man said. Every man who died haunts me. Their faces. Their names. That's the price of becoming a legend. He walked away, leaving the young pirate with the truth. Some victories cost more than defeat. And legends are always written in blood. The real question is, whose blood are you willing to spill for glory?